Good morning. Today is Sunday, July 26th, and we'll be looking at Luke chapter 12. The crowd is closing in on him, Jesus, until the point that they're tripping over each other. They're stepping on each other. And he teaches them a lesson about hypocrisy. So he's talking to them about, what it means to know as they're trampling one another, what it means to know that things that you try to keep secret will be revealed. So anything you do in the dark will be seen in the light. And the mention of whatever you say behind closed doors will be proclaimed from the rooftops. Do you think he was predicting the culture that we live in right now, where everyone can pull out their phone and videotape whatever's happening and then post it for everyone in the world to see themselves? We're all our own television camera studios. We have our own little ways of, going anywhere and seeing anything and putting it out into the world with social media and our iPhones. There's good things about that, and then there's not so good things about that. But he's talking about, the way you live your life behind closed doors needs to be consistent with what people see, and that's a good way for the world to become a better place. So that's a good lesson. Some of the other ones are really, really hard to take because a lot of this chapter and the chapter following is end time predictions. So Luke does a lot of this apocalyptic stuff that Jesus is carrying it on. So then he talks with them, and this is also in the other Gospels, about relying on the Holy Spirit to know what to say. So that when you come before people who are questioning you about how you're acting in the world, don't prepare your remarks, but just rely on the Holy Spirit, for the Holy Spirit will teach you at that very hour what you ought to say. So I love that message because I think sometimes we formulate in our head how we're going to address a certain situation, especially if it's difficult. And sometimes we need to take a breath, breathe in, Spirit of God, breathe out the angst and the anger and the heart at war, and be at peace when we talk to one another. And just rely on that Spirit to lead us, and we can discern where it's God's Spirit and where it's just our own closed-mindedness and negativity. He goes on to tell the parable of the rich fool, and it's not the one that you're thinking. It is the person that decides that he will tear down his barns and build bigger ones to store stuff because he needs bigger barns. And the end of it says, "You fool, this very night your life will be the very night your life is being demanded of you. So what's gonna happen to your big barns, or your plans for your big barns?" So he's talking about that, and I think it relates to the next teaching. It's sort of similar to Matthew's Sermon on the Mount, where he says to the disciples, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink or what your body will wear." So similar, it's all the same language, Consider the lilies of the field, they neither toil nor spin, yet they are clothed greater than Solomon in all his glory, right? And who of you, by worrying, can add a day to your life? So Jesus is saying that you need to be careful of greed, and don't put all your efforts into these worldly things that don't really matter for your own spiritual good, or don't matter to your neighbor, or don't apply to, essentially, love. Love is the point. Love is the reason. So Jesus, then we get into some of that end times that I was addressing, where he talks about be ready for his return, keep watch. Don't let the Lord come back and find you sleeping, or beating on people, or drunk, or eating. Don't let the Lord come back and find food on your face. It's two passages in here, verse 35 through verse 38, where he's talking about watchful slaves, faithful and unfaithful slaves, servants that the master has put in charge to tend, things. And when the master comes back, and the master either finds the servants doing the right thing, what they were asked to do, or doing the wrong thing. And there's a little bit in here that's kind of interesting. It applies to these servants that when the master returns, he finds one of the good servant doing the good thing, and he finds the negative servant beating the slaves and drinking and eating and carrying on and not doing his work. And then he says that the one who knows what to do and does not do it will be severely beaten, but the one who doesn't know what to do but still is not doing the right thing will have a lighter beating. I'm wondering how cultures have, church denominations have interpreted this in the past, because it's very weird, and I don't really understand in the whole economy of mercy how this. Well, if you weren't aware, then you get a lighter beating. So it kind of works out. But I'm going to lean into curiosity around that. That's how I'm going to look about that. But Jesus goes on to talk about end times when he says that I have come to bring a sword, come to cause division, father and son, and mother and daughter, and brother and sister. And there will be, again, weeping and gnashing of teeth. And he says, I have come to bring a division, and 5 in the household, 2 will be against 3. This is hard to understand. And then he's like, hey, I know it's hard to understand, because look, and he says this to all the people that are trampling each other, right? You can look in the sky and you can predict the weather, but you can't look around you and predict what times you're living in. What is the condition of the souls of the people? What is needed of you? What is what you need to be doing? You can't predict that. You can't look around you and say, hey, things have gone off the rails and we need to bring it back. So he says, you hypocrites, you know how to interpret the appearance of the earth and sky, but you do not know how to interpret the present time. You don't know how to look around at what you're living in and say it's right or wrong. So, and then at the very end of it, it's again apocalyptic kind of information about being dragged out before the judge and questioned. And this is about being thrown into prison, and you have to pay the piper. You have to pay the price for that. And he's saying that in the end of chapter 12. So apocalyptic things, some synoptic, some only in Luke, and definitely a chapter to lean into some curiosity and wonder around some of the things that Jesus says in the Lucan Gospel, especially the apocalyptic dealings. Have a wonderful day.